wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Charlamagne the guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
Brother Rob Parker, welcome.
Yo, what's up?
Queens
up, my brother?
own.
Jamaica Queens.
Jamaica Queens own.
Linden and Merrick.
Linden
Come
and
on,
Merrick.
man.
Okay.
You know, Rob is so. I told I saw Rob in the street the other day, man. I was excited to see him because first take. That's a part of your morning ritual,
Right.
You know, so when I saw him, I was like, oh shoot, and I was like, man, hey man, just to let you know, we use the term cornball brother all the time. I know you get that a lot.
It's unbelievable that it became a thing. Somebody even told me, like in the Urban Dictionary, I get credit for that, and I'm like, cornball was just. To me, that was like no big deal. There are other words I could have used I didn't want to use. I thought that was a softening kind of word to use, and I couldn't believe how big it got, to be honest.
Well, if you don't know who Rob Parker, let's start from the beginning. Who is Rob Parker, and how did you get your start in this thing called sports news?
You know what? Started a long time ago in high school. I always wanted to be a sports writer from way back
Why
when.
a sports writer of that? Because you're 6'4", so
Right.
most people would be like, why you want to play basketball? Why you want to play ball?
You know what? I wanted to play baseball. I was a baseball player.
Baseball player.
Baseball is my love, number one.
So what'd you play, HBQV?
So I played first base and pitched, like locally in Jamaica.
Okay,
whatever.
Little Queens, okay.
So I was just like, if I can't make it as a baseball player, what can I do to have, like, stay around sports? And I just grew up, growing up in New York, Channel 11, The Odd Couple used to come on every night on Channel 11 for like 25 years. And Oscar Madison was a sports writer, and I watched that. I was like, now that's a great job. You get to go to all the games for free. You cover sports. So I was like, if I don't make it as a baseball player, I want to be a sports writer. And I had a teacher at old PS 50 in South Jamaica say to me when I was in second grade, Robert, when you grow up, you should be a writer. Can you imagine a teacher telling somebody who's 7 years old that they should be a writer?
She's seeing something in you.
But I'm just still amazed at that.
Right.
Like, what is a second grader writing that a teacher can tell you to be a writer? You know, at that age.
That's great. I mean, I tell my daughter that. My 7-year-old in second grade right now because she's always writing. She writes stories. She comes up with these ideas, and I'm just like, write a book. And she literally said to me that if I write a book, you gonna publish it? I'm like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But there you go. So there's the reason, I guess, that this teacher said that to me. So let's fast forward. I go to high school. High school newspaper. I went to Van Buren. And the high school newspaper takes forever. These are old days, 1980, 79, 80. Takes forever to come out. I write a story about the boys basketball team. It doesn't come out till baseball season. It's like a 3-month window. So I was like frustrated by it. I go into the principal's office. I'm like, I want to start an all sports newspaper that comes out on time every month. He looked at me. He's like, no, the kids are only going to throw it on the ground as trash, and we're not doing it. Can you imagine like an educator? He's an old white gruff guy, kind of. And then he caught himself because he realized, like, does that sound right as an educator? Kid coming in talking about journalism. So I was like, so then he looked at me, he goes, and we don't have money for it. So I was like, well, what if I raise the money for the paper? Can we do it? So he said, yeah, all right, you could do it. Went home on my typewriter. Again, this is 1980, 79, 80. Write 3 letters to the 3 New York publishers of the newspapers here. The Daily News, the New York Times, and the New York Post. Daily News was my favorite paper. Never got a letter back.
Damn.
New York Times wrote me back, said it was against their company policy to help people start newspapers. I'm 16. I'm in high school. How am I competition? The last letter was to the New York Post. Open the envelope. There's a check for $50 to start my newspaper.
Oh, wow.
Guess who sent me that $50 check?
Who?
Rupert Murdoch, who owns
What?
Fox now.
Wow.
Why?
Just for my letter. Can you believe that? And this is the thing that I always am impressed by. And you know this. You send a check to Jamaica Queens, that's going to a black person. So got my letter, saw what I wanted to do, and started my course. I got to tell Rupert Murdoch that a couple years ago at FS1. He came in the studio. We were doing Undisputed, and he was in the studio. And I went and told him the story.
And what did he say?
And he was like, really?
Did he
Because you know
remember?
what I mean. He didn't remember. He's
Oh, he
like,
didn't remember.
really? I said, absolutely, it's a true story.
So he must have did that a lot to people. Just
Yeah, if he didn't remember.
Yeah, he didn't remember. But that really springboarded me into it. And even at my high school, man, I was inducted last summer into the Martin Van Buren High School Hall of Fame. And I know a lot of that is because I was able to start that paper. So I've always had these dreams of being a sports writer, and not so much television and radio. It was more about being a writer. And the radio part came along, and the television part came along after that.
Wow.
There was a time where it felt like, as a sports journalist, sports pundit, ESPN was the pinnacle. It doesn't necessarily feel like that anymore because there's so many ways to create, platforms. Do you feel that way?
I do.
Okay.
It was the pinnacle at one time. And I'm not saying it's just because I was on the show, but at that time when we first really got First Take rolling, it was hard to be on that panel. It was creme de la creme. You had to be kind of special to get up there. Now anybody's on there. You turn it on sometimes, you're like, who is that? You don't even know who it is who's on that show. And it's become that, which is fine. You know what I mean? And things evolve. But it was a big deal. And I was able to start from the very beginning because I was on Cold Pizza before
That's
First
what I
Take.
remember, yeah.
I was on that show. And that was really the first start of it. And the interesting story there is, if you remember, is Woody Page and Skip Bayless. I actually tried out for the show with Woody Page. So Woody Page tells me after I try out, he's like, man, you were awesome. He said, you were the best of all the people who tried out. And then they asked me, I was living in Detroit, if I was willing to move to New York or whatever for this job, if I were to be offered it. And I was like, absolutely. And then 2 weeks, I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden Skip Bayless got hired.
Wow.
So I was that close to that original show with Woody Page.
What was your big break? What was your first big break that you knew that this is going to happen?
I would say when I got hired as a sports columnist at the Detroit Free Press. This is 1993.
Now explain how you got to Detroit, because you're from New York, you're from Queens. Are you a Mets or Yankees fan?
I grew up as a Mets fan.
Mets fan because you're from Queens. Giants or Jets?
Jets. Mets,
Jets.
Islanders, and Knicks. I mean, those are all right.
Jesus.
Even hockey.
It's crazy. New York is either that or it's either Yankees, Knicks, Giants.
Yeah, but
Rangers.
it should be Yankees, Giants, the Yankees, Knicks,
Rangers.
right? And Rangers. Those are the teams that go together, the old school teams.
Correct.
To me. And if you're a new school, it would be Jets, Mets. Never Nets. Nets were never really
Nets, no.
in the mix growing up. They were in New Jersey. People just didn't.
And you did the Mets
Nets
because
fans are liars.
That was about
when you hear people say they are Nets fans now, they're liars.
Yeah, they weren't Nets fans growing up.
And you were Mets fan because you were from Queens, and in 1986 when the Mets had Strawberry and all those.
I was
people
at Game 6 when the ball went through Bill Buckner's leg.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to say it was 1993. So I was in Cincinnati. I left New York. I left the Knicks job to go to Cincinnati to become the first black baseball beat writer to cover the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds are the oldest professional sports team in the United States.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the first. And when they hired me, they had never had a black baseball beat writer, a guy who covered the team every day, traveled the whole country. I was the highest paid reporter at the entire paper, man. People tripped out. There's even an article that was written in the Columbia Journalism Review where one of my white coworkers was quoted in the article saying, "How do you pay a black person that much money?"
Wow.
That's how crazy it was in Cincinnati in 1993. But then 1991. But then I went to Detroit to become the first black sports columnist at the Detroit Free Press. So along my whole life, all these knocking down these barriers.
Gotcha.
But the Detroit Free Press was an awesome. To this day, I still call it the greatest job I ever had because I connected with a city. I got to do something that nobody had ever done. And Detroit always embraced me from the very minute I got there. I used to get off the planes from covering games, walk through the airport, and people working, the food and the janitorial stuff. Yo, Rob, welcome home, whatever. Kill the Lions, I read your column or whatever it was. And so Detroit, I connected with that city. I own a barbershop there still, 21 years, called Sporty Cuts on West 7 Mile Road. man,
I
that
love
was like
Detroit.
one of the greatest things I've ever done. And if you know Detroit at all, there's nothing but barbershops, but we got a real cool barbershop there.
I've always wondered, like, when it comes to sports columnists, how did y'all make the transition to television? Because it's not like now where somebody can start a YouTube page or be on Instagram and you can see that they can actually deliver the words that they're writing. How did they know that y'all would be good on television? What was the process?
You know what? ESPN was smart. So at one point, remember, ESPN was all about highlights.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, they realized highlights ain't go. This is not going to cut it. So then they started rating the country's newspapers. They will take Mike Wilbon from the Washington Post, Tony Kornheiser from the Washington Post, Michael Smith, from the Boston Globe, Rob Parker from the Detroit Free. Like, they just started rating because columnists have something to say. Mm-hmm. And that's really and then at different degrees. Some guys are more, some guys have more flair in delivering it, but they have an opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what, television is all about that. And that's where that take is. What is your take? So I think that's why newspaper reporters became the television stars. You look on television, sports television, all of the stars are former newspaper people, mm-hmm. which speaks volume.
Well, how did all of y'all end up being good on TV? Like, everybody you named is actually good on TV. Like, did they do auditions? Like,
yeah, no, it was always auditions. Okay. Everybody does an audition, and mm-hmm. I just think it's more about can you articulate a point and have something to say. Mm. Like, I hear people they're always ripping on the media and ripping on us, man. I think we do a great job. I'm dead serious. Like, I know there's this quote-unquote new media and all these athletes, they got podcasts and they think they're breaking ground or doing something. I don't buy into that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of those guys are compromised. They're friends. They have the same agency. They went to the same college, so they're not giving you the straight-up point of view that most fans really want. That's why these fan websites, DetroitLions.com. Fans don't go there. You're not getting nothing from there, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to tell you things are bad or the coach mm-hmm. made a mistake or you need to move on from this coach mm-hmm. or general manager. So I still think the sports writers, broadcasters, the guys who have been trained to do this, still do the best job.
Now you launched a Major League Baseball Bro podcast, website,
and mm-hmm. everything.
Now, how do we make baseball fun again, right?
We're there. Now, it's MLBBro.com.
MLBBro.com. Because baseball, when I was a kid, was fun, right? I used to go to the game. There were stars. Like, there were people that you wanted to see. And it was for little things, whether it was Dave Winfield, whether it was, Ricky Henderson with the shimmy before he got on. There was power. There was a little bit of everything. You wanted to be everything. It wasn't just, I want to be this heavy hitter. It was fun. It seemed like the games were a lot faster. Now, seems a little slow.
Are you saying the game needs steroids again?
I'm not saying
that was a good era. Say what y'all want.
It was a good era. It was a great era. It was. No doubt about it. But baseball has made changes this season.
Oh, what changes have they made?
Okay, so they have the pitch clock. Okay, so now you have to throw pitches within 10 seconds. You get in the box. Guys can't sit around and rearrange themselves and play with their wristbands and step out the box. You got to get in. And either if you don't, they call a strike on the batter. And if it's a pitcher and you don't get on the mound and throw within the time allotted, then you get a ball from your end.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So the game has changed this year. The bases are bigger. There are more stolen bases getting back
What do you mean the bases are bigger?
They made the bases bigger. Now it's almost the size of a pizza box.
Why did they do that?
Okay, so now it gives you a little more edge to be able to steal bases, right? Because the bases, I could get to the base sooner. And they also wanted to make the bases bigger to be able to eliminate being stepped on and injuries that have happened.
Right.
The pitch clock has cut 30 minutes off the game.
Really?
You go to a game now, games in the major leagues are now 2:35, 2:40.
Opposed to 4 hours, 3.5 hours.
Yeah, like you 3.5 hours. So baseball has made a lot of those changes, and it's been good for the game. And then so let me tell you, MLB Bro was an idea I had going back. We launched in 2021. Mm-hmm. And basically what we do is we cover black and brown major leaguers. So if you're black or brown in the major leagues, we cover you. And we cover top to bottom. There's about 80, 85 black players. And we're on top of them. And Major League Baseball this past year partnered with us and decided that they like what we've been doing, and this is something that they wanted to have a partnership with. And this has been really good, and there's all kinds of other elements to it. I have a staff of over 60, mostly young, black and brown reporters and content producers, and it is incredible.
This podcast is doing amazing then.
Huh?
This podcast must be doing amazing.
It is. It's doing great. It's a website and podcast.
And they do all the teams, though, right? So
yeah, we do all the teams. We got players, all reporters and content producers, and all over. We're on social media. Have a staff of like 15 or 20.
That's dope.
So this goes back to 2020. Went to the baseball All-Star game in Washington, D.C. Me, J.R. Gamble, who's the managing editor and of the site and everything that we do, and Mark Gray. We're all three brothers, and we're all at the baseball All-Star game. And it was just a dream of ours. We talked about it, and we actually made this thing happen. But to have the backing of Major League Baseball is an $11 billion industry. Mm-hmm. MLB didn't have to join in with us and say, we're cool with this. But they saw the value in it, and it's organic, and it's real. It's not like a bunch of white guys sitting around a table and say, what can we come up with to attract black people to the game?
I was going to ask you that. Are you seeing more black players or less black players, or do you see more black fans? Because I don't see as many black players as I did as when I was a kid.
They're coming. And we follow the minor leagues and the players who are there, and they are coming. There's a whole group of kids and parents who don't want their kids to play football anymore. Baseball, the erosion of it, a lot has to do with the AAU, where a lot of these coaches have told kids not to play other sports, just focus in on basketball
right.
or football, 365, 24/7, which is all wrong. Kyler Murray with the Arizona Cardinals, first player in the history of sports, first round pick in the NFL, first round pick in Major League Baseball. That didn't happen 20 years ago. Happened a few years ago. You can play more than one sport and excel. And I think that
I'm surprised Deion and Bo Jackson didn't show people that, though.
Yeah, but that was years ago, and then kind of the kids went away from it because of it. But you're right. Bo and Deion and those guys, they understand. It's hard to play baseball, too. You don't go straight from college or high school straight to the major leagues. So you got to put in work. You know, kids today, they don't want to – I want to be a star tomorrow. I don't want to wait 3 years or 2 years in the minor leagues. But baseball, as you know, the contracts through the roof, fully guaranteed. This guy's making 3, 4. Ohtani is about to make $500 or $600 million when he signs a contract next year. That's what he's going to get.
You know, it's so interesting because whenever we have these conversations about the greatest athlete of all time, my mind goes to Deion Sanders. And you got to put Bo Jackson up there, right? You know, you can't just say Michael Jordan or Serena Williams, whoever they name.
Serena Williams, Tom Brady,
Tagoe. Two sports stars.
Woods.
Right, to be able to play two sports is incredible, but it's even more, baseball is the hard one. It really is. I'm not knocking basketball or football. Remember, if you get 3 hits and 10 at-bats, you're a Hall of Famer. So that means you failed 7 times. That's how hard it is to play baseball.
Wow.
Think about that. 3 hits and 10 times, right? You batting 300. You're like 7 times you're making out. So it's a really difficult sport. Dave Winfield, we're just talking about for old school. Dave Winfield, who played for the Yankees and the Padres, when he came out of college, he was drafted by 4 professional leagues: ABA, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball.
Damn.
Played Major League Baseball, Hall of Famer, played 20 years, had a great career. He picked the right sport. Longevity, money-wise, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys with football, it's tougher in football.
Yeah. You know, so life after ESPN has been great.
It really has. I mean, during the time whenever things happen in life, and I've worked at 35 different places in my career. So after ESPN, I worked in Detroit and continued to work in Detroit. And then since I've gone on to Fox, Chris Broussard and I have a radio show, The Odd Couple, which is just a fun show. And We've done a lot on that over the last 6 years, so it's cool.
When I think back on that situation, I'm like, there had to be something else. It couldn't have just been the Cornball brother comments to RG3. There's no way that caused them to say, Rob, you're no longer with ESPN. It had to be something else going on behind the scenes.
I worked there for 8 years, never called to the principal's office. I had a 0. I'm not lying to you, 0. The bad part was it was the perfect storm that hurt me. At that time, he was one of the most popular players in the NFL. He just won like Rookie of the Year. He was a star player. Number 2, my contract was up. This happened in December of that year. Contract was up at the end of the year. It's easy to just say, like, we're not going to re-sign you after. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like they had 3 years invested in me and what are we going to do or whatever. And, you know, after this thing happened, and if I really wanted to push it, I could have. I could have made a big enough stink because there were emails sent, all kinds of. I got texts from my boss after that segment. No lie. Rob, you remain one of the most undervalued talent at ESPN. Producers were told to take that clip to put on the Emmy reel. Here's the other one. You remember, First Take was 2 hours, right, till noon. Then they had the best of First Take, which they played for an hour. They would clip out the 3 best segments of the show and put it on for the afternoon show. If I had really violated what they were saying that I did and I was out of bounds, do you know that segment was clipped out of the original airing and put into the best of show? How is that put into the best of show if I violated ESPN and you know what I mean? And I did something that was because they didn't even look at it that way. It was actually just pushback, social media and all that. And I just took my lumps and just said, hey, it is what it is. And as you know, you guys do a show. There's a pre-show meeting. Everything is discussed. We sat there and we talked about it. In those meetings, day in and day out, if you say something off color or something that the producers will be like, yo, don't say that on the air, Rob. Don't. Nobody said that. I had no reason to go out there thinking I was saying something that was going to be the end of the world.
So you had said Cornball brother in the meeting?
In the meeting. Yes.
So why Stephen A. pushed back if he knew you was going to say that? Because Stephen A. was like, you're making me feel uncomfortable.
He was not. Stephen A., if you remember that show, was not in studio with us. He was. Oh, got you. He was
remote.
A remote.
Yeah.
So the original, and this is pulling the curtain back, the original show was already put together without that segment. I leave my clothes in the room where we meet. I go in to go get a cup of tea. I come back into the room to grab my stuff to get ready for the show. And Skip and one of the producers says, hey, Rob, you know, we changed our mind. We think we might want to do this topic with RG. Would you want to do it? So now Stephen A. is off the call. This is done with Skip and one of the producers.
They ran an audible.
That I could have, had I taken my stuff with me and never returned to the room, we probably wouldn't have done that topic. I mean, that's how stuff can happen just like that.
So for people that don't know, allegedly they were upset that you called him a cornball brother.
Right.
That wasn't allegedly.
They were right.
They was upset.
Now, what is wrong with saying somebody's a cornball?
I don't even think the people knew why they were upset. I agree with you. I don't think that's
because in high school you would call somebody, "Oh, he a cornball."
Worse things have been said on ESPN,
but it's not racial. Like
there's nothing to it.
There's nothing to it. It's like somebody saying somebody's soft or somebody is a sucker. Like I don't understand.
Everybody watching that at the time knew what he meant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? What did I say? I said the guys in the barbershop. I even said that. Like that's the conversation had in the barbershop. Because we know what kind of conversations they are.
I feel like Channing Crowder had that same type of conversation recently in regards to Russell Westbrook. You know, but I mean that was just on his platform. And he got a lot of backlash for that too. I forgot exactly what did he he might have called him corny too. I don't remember what it was, but it was something I forgot what it was.
It was something to that same realm.
Yeah.
Something to that same realm.
But hey, you don't regret it.
No, I mean, things happen in life, man. I've been doing this for 37 years.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like 37 years to be relevant all this time and to continue to grow and, between Fox Sports Radio and MLB Bro, and I work for MLB Network, and, I teach at USC. I teach sports journalism. I love that. Yeah.
great.
So I'm doing all the stuff that I love to do.
Can
Let's talk some sports, man.
I was going to say the same thing. Where you want to start? Can the Lakers beat the Nuggets?
Sure they can. I don't think they will. How's that? I don't. I just think the Joker, I think people have, they were calling the Nuggets the chicken nuggets all season. Nobody want to believe in them. They've been impressive during the postseason.
So you don't think AD has nothing for the Joker?
Well, he had 40 points, and the Lakers still got an L in Game 1, right? I mean, like, if you're a Laker fan and AD scored 40, then you think you won that game? Absolutely. That to me, and the Joker didn't score any points in the fourth quarter of Game 1. What does that say?
Yeah.
I mean,
now let's talk Heat and Celtics. I don't think anybody thought the Heat was definitely going to win the first game.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. The Celtics have had a struggle the whole way. Remember, they lost Game 1 to Philadelphia.
Right.
They didn't even have Embiid in that game. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There's something about the Celtics. They've lost home games to teams that you would think that they should win. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean Miami won Game 1. It doesn't mean that they can't. The Celtics can't win the next 4 or whatever, or 4 out of 5.
You think it's coaching?
I don't know. There's something missing there with Boston, and maybe it is. Missoula's the new coach, and maybe they're not as focused. They came off the Game 7, which was big, and they won. But they've lost games before. Even last year during the regular season, I don't even remember this, the Nets, once they traded Durant and Kyrie, they came back from 28 points down in Boston and won a game. So there's something there that they sometimes lose games that you would think that they shouldn't at home.
What about Ja Morant? How should the NBA handle that situation? People are saying he should be suspended for a whole season. What do you think?
At least half a year, because this is the second thing. It's the second offense, and 2 months after, like, I just don't even. There's something deeper there. After you've been through that, and people are telling you, you could lose your Nike deal, and you could lose all these sponsors and all kinds of other things that are going on, and yet you still come out and do it. And then people. Here's the other thing that I think is, people are saying, well, he didn't break any laws by, you know what I mean, and maybe the gun, you don't know if it was registered or loaded, right. And all these other things.
Correct.
When you sign up for a professional league, you don't just represent yourself.
That's right.
Represent the organization, you represent the league. That's why there are code of conduct, these contracts, right? Moral clauses, and for everybody always says, that's not fair, they're going to do all right. Trevor Bauer pitched for the Los Angeles Dodgers, okay? Had what he said was consensual sex where he beat up the woman during sex. Pictures come out, all that. He doesn't get charged, right? He was right, but the charges were dropped. So there was nothing legally, right, that he did against the law. He's in Japan pitching. The Dodgers decided that that's not somebody we want, despite not breaking any laws. So I'm like, whenever people say that, teams have the right to say who they want to wear their uniform and represent them. I'll give you another example. Donald Sterling. Did Donald Sterling break any laws when he told his side piece, don't bring no black people to the games or whatever?
Not at all.
People didn't like it, right? It's not a good look for him, and he being an owner of a team with a lot of black players on it. But did he break any laws? No, he was forced to sell his team because you're a part of a bigger picture.
Right.
It ain't just about you. If you say that stuff in your basement with your boys and your friends, you good to go. When that stuff becomes public, it changes everything.
And I think with Ja, we say 2 incidents, but it's been more than 2 incidents.
Yes.
There's been 2 incidents of him waving a gun, but there's been other incidents that all involve guns in some way.
Suppose he beat up a 17-year-old kid in his backyard, and there was he brandished a gun in that situation.
The laser pointing.
Right, with the Indiana Pacers. There's too many things going on here where you can just turn your head and act like nothing's happened. Something's happening.
Now, people were saying that did Embiid deserve the MVP over the Joker? What's your thoughts?
It was close. The numbers are real close. Embiid, I know, politic, like he felt like he didn't get it last year. But now watching the Joker, there's people are like, oh, maybe he might have been. And the one thing I had as a pushback to people who didn't want to vote for him, I get voter fatigue. He won it 2 years. But there are a lot of voters, I think, and that's not the way the award's supposed to be. But they didn't want him to win it 3 years in a row because Jordan never did it. LeBron never won. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's got to be, it should be in a vacuum, not where you're looking out for historical standpoints.
Got you.
It's got to just be based on the numbers. And his numbers were very close to Embiid. I don't have an issue because I respect people's votes. If they really believed it was Embiid, it's not like the Joker for sure was miles ahead and got jerked. I don't feel like that.
And why do you believe LeBron is better off losing in the Western Conference Finals than the NBA Finals?
But first of all, I call LeBron the faute, the finals failure of all time, because he's lost more finals than any other former MVP. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that if you're still trying to make a case for LeBron against Michael being the GOAT, another loss in the finals doesn't help his argument. He'll be 4-7. So I'm not saying, like, of course he wants to win, but I'm saying if he's going to lose, it'd be better off if he lost now in this than to go to the finals and lose again. Then people, if you try to make that argument, go, he lost 7 times. Mike won 6, never lost, and won all 6 MVPs. Mm-hmm. Is it? And then people say, well, but he's been there 11 times. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to the Playboy Mansion and stand outside, or do you want to go in? Which one you want?
Yeah, I never understood when we started giving people participation trophies. Nobody ever said the Buffalo Bills is one of the greatest NFL teams. That never happened.
Thank you. That's my argument all the time when I talk about it. Marv Levy was the coach of that Buffalo Bills team. Mm-hmm. Went to Fort. Have you ever heard anybody say Marv Levy is the greatest coach in NFL history? No, because it's about winning. It is about winning. And if we're talking about the greatest of all time, we should nitpick. Yeah. Look through somebody's resume. Who'd you beat? What was the circumstance? What was the situation? That's what. And it doesn't mean that because I don't think LeBron's not the GOAT, I think he's a bum. He's a great player. I think he's the second best player of all time.
I got him.
But I don't think he's the GOAT.
I got him 4th.
4th.
I got him 4th. I got Michael, and people don't agree with this, but I got Steph Curry.
You got Steph Curry.
I got Steph 2, Kobe 3, then Bron, then Magic.
Wow. I can't get with the Steph Curry.
Why?
Steph Curry, because I don't know if he has those other 2 championships without Durant. Remember,
but you could say Bron don't have those championships without Kyrie. You could say he don't have it without Wade.
I got
you could
that.
say he don't have it without AD. So but you could say the same thing.
The only difference is Steph Curry is the author of the biggest choke in the history of the NBA. Okay, when they lost a 3-1 lead.
Yeah,
it had never happened in the history of the NBA.
When Draymond got suspended that time, right?
Yeah, that was Game 5. But they still lost Game 6, Game 7. And remember, in that finals that year, they set the record for the most wins in the regular season.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? They didn't lose more than 2 games in a row all year, and then they lost the last 3 games to lose the finals. That's a big negative for this greatest. And here's the other part.
But he's still 3-1 in NBA Finals against LeBron, and he won a ring without KD. He won 2 rings without KD.
I get it.
KD has done nothing since he's left Steph Curry.
But if you take those 2 away, I don't think you're putting that I think KD, and if you remember KD, they were 8-1 against LeBron, and KD was the best player on that team. He really was.
Why don't you think KD is able to get another ring without those,
well, I mean, a
guys?
lot of extenuating circumstances. I mean, and you could use it as their excuses. Mm-hmm. Kyrie got injured. You remember the year that they lost to Milwaukee where he stepped on the line. He hit a game-winning 3, right? Mm-hmm. That would have sent them to the next round. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a bad break. Harden was hurt, was a shell of himself. Kyrie got hurt in that. Kyrie doesn't want to get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Harden wants to get out of trade. He goes to Phoenix. He gets hurt right away, plays 8 games, you know what I mean? And then Chris Paul gets hurt. I mean, just Ayton camp. I like he's been on a bad road, and a lot of bad things have happened. But it doesn't take away. KD is a great player.
Yeah, but Steph was the nucleus for all of those teams. We can say whatever we want.
Is Steph the greatest shooter of all time to you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Who do you think is the best shooter?
I I don't know. It's hard for me to say that Steph is because
over who?
And I'm just gonna give you circumstance because this is what I look at,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think it's hard to say that. I get it, 3-pointers made and all that. But when the game's on the line, chance to tie or win in the final 10 seconds, Steph is like 0 for 10 or 11. He's never made one of those baskets. When I talk to former NBA players and I say, if you need a big shot at the end of the game, do you want Steph taking it? Do you want Reggie Miller taking it?
Ray Allen.
Or Ray Allen? Nobody picks Steph. How can you say he's the greatest shooter when nobody will take him to make a basket to win the game at the end? I think that's why I'm not on board with the greatest shooter of all time.
Damn, that's saying a lot. But I mean, when I look at people who,
But is that fair? Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what
no.
you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Like to
I don't
be the
think it's
greatest
fair.
shooter, that's got to be included. How you didn't make no big shots?
But then, I see what you're saying.
because by that logic, Robert Ory's the greatest shooter.
He
of
ain't
all
the greatest
time.
shooter.
But by that logic,
But he's the. You would say Robert Ory's one of the
Clutch
greatest
shooters.
clutch shooters
yeah. So
of all time.
So you say
Clutch.
Steph's just not a great.
I'm
clutch
just saying
shooter.
because of the clutch doesn't go there. If you want to say somebody's the greatest shooter, it doesn't make any sense to me if I ask you a player and I give you 3 choices to make a shot at the end of the game to win, and you don't pick Steph. Steph should be picked every time.
But
if
if,
he's
like Charlamagne said, if you put Robert Ory in there and then you talk about clutch shooting
Big
and how
Shot
many times to
Bob,
make
that's
it,
what they call him.
and then,
Right.
and then you put those 4 in there,
Big Shot Bob.
you might go to Big Shot Bob because you know Big Shot Bob
He's
is
clutch.
He's clutch.
No, I get it, but I said it's
That doesn't
gotta,
make him the best shooter.
No, but it's got to be the whole package, the whole resume.
I mean, I've never seen nobody. I've only seen a couple players revolutionize the sport of basketball like Steph did. Like, I mean, absolutely change it. Like,
Michael
Magic
Jordan,
changed the way
Magic,
point guards play.
Allen
Michael
Iverson.
Jordan, you got to put AI in there.
But
Steph.
did he change it for the good or the worse?
Cool.
I think he
AI
changed it for the
stuff.
good. And not just men's basketball, women's basketball.
But Steph,
I think he changed it for the good. Because not just
I don't because I think everybody thinks they could take threes. I think that's where the game has changed so much. I've been covering the NBA
Yeah.
since 1987.
I don't like to see big men shooting threes.
But that's because of Steph. Because
Yeah.
everybody believes that they all could take threes.
He's 7'5".
now.
It just seems odd for you to stand at the 3-point line.
When you
Like
can
some
do
of
it.
these coaches, the old time coaches like Larry Brown and all that, like would just cringe, like to that these big guys are out there hoisting up threes all the time. I think there's a time and a place for it. I don't think everybody should be shooting threes. I don't like that the game. There's a lot of mid-range shots that don't. There was a famous moment where there's a 3-on-1 break with a team down by 2, right? And they need to tie the game, and the 3 guys are charging towards the basket after stealing the ball or whatever, and there's only one defender back.
They shoot a
And,
3-pointer.
and all of them run to the 3-point line to shoot a 3 rather than go straight to the basket and tie the game to send it to overtime.
That's
they go shoot a
insane.
3,
Yeah.
they miss it, and they lose the game.
yeah.
But let me ask you, do you think the NBA is too soft, right?
You can't defend.
A lot of easy fouls. You can't defend. Everything goes to the review. And I feel like they travel a lot. Like sometimes that Euro step
Carry.
is a Euro. Yeah, they carry all the time. So what's your thoughts on the NBA and some of their rules and their regulations that's changed throughout the years?
It's so easy to score now. There's no defense. It's not the game, like I said, that I've been watching for all these years.
If you shoot and I try to defend you and I put my hand in your face and you land on my foot, that's a technical.
Right.
That is wild.
It is, and as you know, when Mike played, I had my hand on your back the entire time. I could control you as a defender, right?
Or try to, yeah.
And then they changed that where I can only use a bent elbow on you. I could still do that. Now I can't even touch you.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to defend you if I can't even put my? So it's easier than ever. All the European players, they talk about like scoring in the NBA. Oh, this is a cakewalk. Are
Even
you
to
kidding?
fake up, if I fake and you jump and then I jump to shoot, you can't do that anymore.
No, none of that. It's just a different game. I don't know if it's for the better. I really don't. I mean, we saw like NBA All-Star game was god awful. You remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, the worst rated game, All-Star game ever. People were just so turned off by it because it wasn't entertaining.
No.
Where do you have Steph ranked? Is he top 5 to you?
No,
Top 10?
probably top 10.
Who's your top 5 then?
I would say, obviously, Michael,
Jordan 1,
LeBron,
LeBron 2,
Kareem,
Kareem 3,
Magic,
Magic 4.
and then 5. There's a couple people. I never really thought about my
So
list.
Kobe wouldn't be in your top 5.
Nah, Kobe's not in the top 5 either.
Why?
Yeah, but you know why?
He's the closest thing to Jordan.
Yeah, but the only problem is, even on his team when he was with Shaq was the most dominant player in the league, not Kobe. So it's hard for me to.
But then when Shaq leaves, he wins 2.
Yeah, but he didn't win 2 immediately. He had to go get Pau Gasol.
It
Let's
takes
be
time.
honest.
He had to rebuild the
Remember
team.
when he was with Smush Parker? I don't think he was winning back then, was he?
Okay, so Kobe's not in it. So who's the 5? And who's it between?
Who else can I pick?
We know it's not Steph. We know it's not Kobe.
No. You know, I hate to X out the old players. You know what I mean? I think they get the short end of the stick. I mean, obviously Bill Russell won 11 championships, so it's hard for me to totally leave him out. I'll take Bill Russell.
Bill Russell.
Do you think Steph Curry's a cornball brother?
No.
Okay.
What is the definition for people who don't know? What is the definition of a cornball brother? So people understand. What is the definition of a cornball?
Just somebody who doesn't feel comfortable being black, and they just aren't like I would never have been bothered if someone says to me, Rob, you're the greatest black sports writer who ever worked in this business. I'm good with that. I don't have an issue with that. I'm proud. I would be proud to be called that. People who just have an issue with talking about race or dealing with those kind of issues, I think is what I came away with, just thinking about somebody being corny or cornball.
You think
just
Russell
not
Wilson?
Comfortable.
You think Russell Wilson is a cornball brother?
I don't see him in that vein either.
Me neither.
I just don't.
Did you ever talk to RG3? Have you
No,
Okay,
never
okay.
ran into each other after that. I mean, he there was a magazine article after. He didn't think that I shouldn't have been retained at ESPN. I thought, which was good. His father said the same thing, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, and all these, my journey along, just a part of my story. It ain't my story.
Gotcha.
Is it true you don't think Tom Brady should be allowed in the Hall of Fame?
Tom Brady is the LOAT, first of all.
What's the load?
What's the low?
The luckiest of all time.
God damn, Rob.
Jesus.
What? How?
I could give you 4 of those Super Bowls that he shouldn't have. First of all, the tuck rule, remember that? He coughed up the ball. They gave it back to him.
Rob, he went to 9 Super Bowls.
Okay.
That's
Did
unheard
they cheat?
of.
Did the Patriots
I don't
cheat?
know.
No,
They
yes,
did.
you do.
Just to get to 9.
Did Tom Brady get suspended?
He went with Tampa.
But I'm asking you.
Literally, after leaving New England, he takes Tampa to the Super Bowl in his first year.
When they won the Super Bowl against the Rams, I think the final score was 13-3, something like that. Tom Brady threw 0 touchdowns, but Tom Brady won another Super Bowl in that game. He threw 0 touchdowns, had 1 pick. The Super Bowl against Seattle. Seattle's at the 1.5-yard line with beast mode.
In beast mode, yeah, they threw it instead.
How you throw the ball? You know football. When you're packed in, there's no space. You can tip the ball. You know what I mean? Got the best running back in the league. Atlanta, when they choked down that Super Bowl.
But the comeback was incredible. If you're going to give the Cleveland Cavaliers all that credit for coming down 3-1, you got to give them the Patriots all the credit for coming back from Atlanta.
3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns?
More than that, there was 4 touchdowns.
They were getting smacked
in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but they were in field goal range and could have kicked the field goal to go up by 11. And they went against running the football, eating clock, kicking the field goal. Instead, they went to passing the football. So they get a holding, which pushed them back. Then the quarterback gets sacked. You don't pass the ball inside. They were at the 22-yard line.
Now it sounds like you're saying it was a conspiracy.
No, I'm just dumb coaching.
Right.
Dumb. And no. So
Tom Brady, he willed the Patriots to win in that game. That was Michael Jordan-esque.
Tom Brady has been very fortunate. I give you that. And that's why I call him lucky. But also, the New England Patriots have cheated. And I just have a hard time with if Tom Brady was suspended by the league for cheating with the Deflategate. But if we're going to say Bonds and Clemens and all these people don't belong in the Hall of Fame because they cheated or whatever,
asterisk,
okay, then Tom Brady was a part of an organization and a team that cheated.
So let's
right? Like why are we letting them off the hook and we act like nothing happened? Do you know what? Stealing teams' defensive signals, right? So you know what they're running and what helps your team. Why are we making it like that doesn't matter?
I wish my Cowboys would cheat.
Right.
Man.
Don't you want them to win?
Yes.
Okay.
But even if you take those 4 Super Bowls away, he still won 3.
No, I'm not saying he's a bum.
He went there 9 times. That's like unheard of in football.
He lost twice. He lost a couple times to the Giants. I don't know if you know.
But But you're saying he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame?
I'm just saying if we're going to keep out Bonds and Clemens and those guys for cheating, Brady's team got caught cheating, and Brady himself got suspended for. Barry Bonds never got suspended by Major League Baseball. Never. Tom Brady actually got suspended.
I think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. I think all those baseball players should be in the Hall of Fame because I don't feel like steroids makes you a better player.
No, it doesn't. It helps you to
Well, it
recover.
does.
It helps you to recover. It doesn't make you.
It helps you to recover and it makes you stronger. You have an ability that other players don't have.
Yeah, but if you suck, it's not going to make you Barry Bonds.
No.
If you're not a good player, it
No.
won't. No.
But it
not
gives
at
you an
all.
advantage over other players.
I don't know because if I'm more pitchers have been caught on the juice than hitters. So if I'm facing you and you're on juice, I'm probably on a level playing field. It ain't. They try to make it like just the Bonds and a couple of hitters had juice. It ain't. That back then during that time when baseball wasn't tested for, without knowing, I'm just guessing, 50 to 75% of people had tried it or did it.
All right.
It was that widespread.
Well, Rob, we appreciate you joining us. Give them the information on your podcast, MLB Bro.
MLB Bro, because you need to know, and I did bring you guys.
Word.
I brought you guys. See if that fits you.
Okay.
All
MLB Bro hats.
See if that fits you.
Thank you, brother.
Will that fit you?
I don't know. I ain't wore one. I guess.
Too
Mine is
big?
good. Nah, mine is good.
You good?
No, we good. MLB Bro.
Because
Thank
you
you,
need
brother.
to know, man.
Because you need to know. It's Rob Parker. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.